I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to wallow. I'm going back to the source to save me. Somebody shout hallelujah.
We have been talking about the offerings, the sacrifices. We went through the book of Genesis in Bible study, and then we went on to Exodus. And now in the book of Exodus, of course, there was a total explanation about the tabernacle and how every part of it actually is a type of Christ. The door is Christ. The altar is Christ. The laver is the washing of the water of Christ. The mercy seat is Christ. It is a place that we come to and ask God to forgive us for all of our sins. Now, we talked about the 5 major offerings that could be made. One was a burnt offering in which they were to burn how much of it? You all remember? All of it. That's where you go in, take some of the inner parts that have to do with fat, because the fat is what?
Good.
Good. Flavor.
It is the Lord's. It belongs to the
Yes.
Lord. Okay. And it does represent the best. It does. You're right, Brother Brandon. It does represent the best. But any entrails, as they say in the scripture, that are in us that have fat on them, or have fat attached, or are fat, that was to be taken and washed, because we need to be washed inwardly. Then those things, of course, the blood would be sprinkled around the base of the altar, and then on top of the altar, the body parts would be placed on top. And of course, after it's all there, it would totally be burned, and that represents total consecration to God. Now, it's important for us to realize something that I didn't really realize myself. I had read it, but I hadn't really thought about it. Is that when an individual came through the door, which is Jesus, he's the only door, that when an individual came through the door, they themselves had to deal the death blow to that animal. Because it was their sins that would cause the death of this animal. So they had to put their hands on it and feel the pulse of the animal and know that this animal is alive. But he's going to die because of what? My sins. So then my sin was transferred as an individual to the animal, and of course washed on the inside, all the parts on the top, and totally fine. Okay, so that is the burnt offering. And now when you read the book of Leviticus, it should somewhat come alive for you. Now then there was a grain offering. The grain offering, or the meal offering, it has 3 names, or the meat offering. Those 3 are the same. It is the only one, really, that has no meat. There's no meat in it at all. It was called the meat offering. Now, that was flour, incense, frankincense, and oil. That was an offering of thanksgiving. Just coming in the house and giving this to the priest and offering thanksgiving to God. The third one is a peace offering. Not peace with other people, but peace with God. The only way you could get it. Now, you understand that what they had was animals. So they would bring their animals. It didn't matter what animal you could afford. You would bring the animal you could afford, and it would be divided, and it would be placed on the altar, and then it would be burned. Now, the peace offering was all fat. Open up the animal, took all the entrails out, put that fat, because the fat belongs to the Lord. It means the best. And also, the blood would be sprinkled on it, and the fat means that you would have to do this. You would have to come to the tabernacle, bring your offering, kill it, just put your hand on it, transfer your sins, slay it, put it on the altar, and then but in this case, only the blood and the fat. Now, what would happen to the rest of it? They would eat it. It was a meal that would be had by everyone who was in the inside. All of Aaron and his sons. Aaron did have daughters who also partook of various offerings, but not these particular ones. But at any rate, the peace offering is blood and thanks. So the best that God has, and you can see there the cleansing and the best of God. All right. Now, then there was the sin offering, which we talked about in some depth. The sin offering was an offering where people came and they were trying to get forgiveness for their sins. You couldn't just go to Jesus and say, I'm sorry, because Jesus had not come yet.
Right.
So they had to bring the offering in. It was a young bull or male goat. It was burned outside the gate. It was burned outside the city. Now, if in your mind, those of you who did the study, you remember this, but the tabernacle was right in the center. Know that the house of God is always the center portion of a person's life.
Yes.
The house of God, it is the central point where God meets his people in a way that he does not meet him in other places. It is what God set up. When he came in the New Testament, he fed the 5,000. Well, he could have just let fish and bread rain down from heaven. But no, he gave it to his disciples and they distributed it to the people. God set this up. We cannot change, we're not God, so we can't change the system. He has honored the tabernacle, and that is the place we need to come in order to receive the blessing of God. Now, he says, in the sin offering, it was young bull or male goat, and they took all the entrails and put the blood in the bag on the altar. But the rest of it was not good enough to go on the altar of sacrifice. Now this altar is just like, say for example, that's the door, you go in the door, and there's an altar that burned the sacrifices. Okay, now, the sacrifice itself, since it was sin, had to be sacrificed outside the gate. So they took it. The tabernacle's in the center. All of the tents where the people lived were all the way around the tabernacle. And they took that animal outside the city. And this is, in case I don't get to it, because we have short time today, this is where Jesus suffered. Jesus suffered outside the gate. He suffered outside the city.
Right.
He could have been crucified inside the city, but it had been prophesied that he was going to suffer outside the gate. So they took him outside the gate.
Yeah.
He is our sin offering. Jesus Christ is our present day sin offering.
Amen.
All right, but just in case I didn't get to that, I thought I'd mention it.
Amen. Yes.
All right, now the guilt offering was an offering where you're making restitution for desecrating of something that is holy. It could be a person. It could be a thing. It could be, for example, now we're going to have to be careful about our altar because it's just, we haven't done it yet, but we're going to anoint everything in here.
Amen.
And it has a holy use. It's set aside for holy use where people come to this altar. They meet Christ. It's a sort of the cross of Christ. People come here and they bow, and this is where hearts are changed and minds are changed. Even though we have an altar in our heart, God still had a physical altar placed in his tabernacle, and we too emulate what God has done. All right, so you not only had to make restitution for whatever you did, but you had to go farther and do more. Now, I did not get to that one last week, so if you have your sheet from last week, then you can look that over, and that will help you to really read the first 5 chapters of the book of Leviticus. Otherwise, you look at it and say, what is this? I don't know what it is. But now you have an understanding of what is going on in there. See, we're not an afterthought. God thought about this hundreds of years before Christ came. It was planned. Everything You see, the scripture that we're going through, please understand, Romans 12:1. I'm helping us to memorize that if we haven't. I'm sure most people have memorized it already. But I beseech you, he says, I'm pleading with you. Therefore what? Since all this has been done for you, I beseech you. I'm pleading with you, therefore, brother, by the mercy, because the mercy seat, because God has had mercy on you and loved you even when you didn't know who he was. Amen. God was loving you and protecting you and going before you and making a way. Our God is an awesome God.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes we just say, oh God, we don't even think about what we're saying. But we're talking about the one who created all things.
Oh, hallelujah.
But our God, I beseech you, I plead with you, therefore, brethren, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, because God is so merciful, that you take your body.
Yeah.
And the Old Testament was just a shadow, so that you will understand what happened in the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But there was a shadow of the fact that Jesus Christ, by his mercy, you're saved.
Amen.
He didn't have to. And you do have to come to him and let him know yourself. And I'll talk about some things about that. If I get to it, I pray. But there's some things we have to do ourselves. We can't depend on our mother and our father and our grandmother and who was a deacon or whatever. It is a personal decision that we have to make to follow Jesus. By the mercy of God, that you present your body as a living sacrifice, holy, and acceptable. You see, that's why we have all the requirements. It had to be brought in an acceptable way. It's not Burger King. You can't choose what the way you want to do it. It had to be done exactly as God demanded. It would have to be a male without blemish, or it could be a male or a female without blemish, or it could be a female without blemish. As you can see, sometimes he used leavened bread. There are a few offerings that are, he used unleavened bread for the most part in the grain offering. But there's one situation when he even uses leavened bread, and leaven means sin. But let me tell you something, God has victory over sin. You can have victory over sin in your life.
Oh, yes.
And that is why he came, and that is why he bled and he died, that we could have this wonderful, beautiful healing that we have been singing about today. These are instructions to the priest. He's not talking to the people now. He's not telling them what you have to bring and how you have to do it, what it's going to look like, and what animal you can use. He's not doing that. At this point, what he is doing is telling them, giving them specific instructions that are different. As you noticed when you talk about the priest, and he was bringing a sacrifice for his sin. Remember what he had to do? How many times did he have to go to the curtain? How many times? Anybody remember? 7 times. He had to go to that altar, dip the finger in the blood. 7 times. Different from an individual who's asking for a sin offering. So if you want to be a preacher, just know God has expectations. We have to have a constant relationship with Christ. If we fall or falter, we need to get up. We can't just wallow in our sin and just stay there and say, oh, well, that's my personality. That's what I do. We have to get up and go forward, because that flame that will forgive you is burning morning and night. Now, the priest would have to put on his linen. Then he would have to pick up the ashes. After that, guess what he'd have to do? He would have to put those ashes beside the altar, but take off his clothes. Now, he would have to change his clothes and carry carry the ashes outside the camp to a clean place.
Amen.
Now you might say, now what is a clean, I explained outside the camp, but what is a clean place? There are 3 situations in which things could be unclean. It couldn't be one of those. Like, it couldn't be a dead body, you know. It couldn't be where a dead body had been. It couldn't be, there are a couple of other instances like, well, let me just move on. But what it means is ceremonially clean. It could not be an unclean place. All right, so then he had to change his clothes and carry the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. The fire on the altar was never, ever to go out. The priest would put wood on it every single morning. Now, what does that mean to us? That we're coming to God as a living sacrifice. That even right now, if we must come morning and night, we must come to God. We can't come to God on Sunday and say, okay, I'll see you again next Sunday.
Right.
But we are a constant, perpetual, in a relationship with God that is constant. We have to keep our relationship current with Him. Okay, then he explained the law of the grain offering. You know what that is if you've been here. It's the flour, the oil, and frankincense. What would they do with it? They were burning on the altar for a sweet aroma. Then it says it is a most holy offering. Now let me explain what does every time it says it is a most holy offering. It means that a portion of it will be given to the priest. And there are instances as we move forward where we find that they're always giving offerings to the priest. Well, that is because even though they come, for example, with the grain offering, it all goes to the priest. With the peace offering, you're giving the fat and the blood, and that whole body, it goes to the priest. They eat it there, and they have a dinner right there. That is because when God in Exodus gave land to the children of Israel, He did not give any to the Levites. The Levites were the priests, so they are taken care of the people. All right, now, the grain offering. This is what he said to them about the grain offering. That in the day that the priest is anointed, 1/10 of an ephah of flour and oil, that offering would be brought to the tabernacle for the priest. Half of it in the morning and half at night. And that represented the fact that throughout the day, the priest is never to take off who he is or who she is, but it is a 24-hour situation. All right, now, I'm going to skip down to the sin offering, which in the sin offering, you take a young bull. Someone's talking in there. If you have a question, go ahead and ask me. You have a question? No? Huh? No. Okay. Well, in my attempt to hold on to the back row, let me just say that you can take this information home. And you can study it on the next page where you see in Leviticus chapter 7, it is saying that these offerings which are most holy, you're always coming to God's house with an offering. We never come to God's house empty-handed. Even if we can just, all we have today is our time, give that. Amen. Unto God. But we always come to God with an offering. Now, he told the people, let's look down to tell the people, do not eat the fat of an ox, a sheep, or goat. Do not eat the fat of an animal that dies naturally because it probably had a disease and that's why it died. Or it could not be an animal torn by a wild beast, because it had to be without blemish. Do not eat the blood of a bird or a fish. Now, those of you who go out and you want your food with the blood running out of it, God bless you. I don't eat it. All right. Now, we talk about here the wave offering. Now, the wave offering had to be placed in your hand. They would bring the fat from the peace offering and with the breast. And what the priest would do is he would burn the fat. That's where we get that statement, burn the fat. And he would then wave the breast before the Lord. All right, now, in doing this, and that offering belonged to God. It was an offering that we give to God. Today we say, well, we do like this. That's our wave offering. Give him a wave offering. But it is an offering that says to God, I love you, I appreciate you, I thank you for everything that you have done. Then we have the heave offering, which is the right thigh for the priest who offers that offering. Now, on your next page, you can clearly see that Jesus Christ himself is the New Testament fulfillment of each one of these offerings. He is the burnt offering. He loved us and gave himself for us. He is the first fruit of those who have come from the field. He is our peace offering. We do not have peace with God except through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. There is one God and only one God. You cannot get peace from Buddha. But your peace has to come through Jesus Christ, who shed his life blood for you. Amen. Then the guilt offering. We see that in Romans 4:25. He was delivered for our offenses. His body was alive and breathing, but because of us and because of our sin, just like they placed their hand on the animal, we are placing our hands on Jesus and we are saying, Lord, take my sins away. I want to be what you want me to be. And of course, he was raised for our justification. All right, now, these are the items that God said. He said, look, go get Aaron, get his sons. Aaron had 4 sons. 2 got into trouble in chapter 10. Bring the garments, and I will tell you what they are. Bring the anointing oil, a bull, 2 rams, a basket of unleavened bread. Bring all of that. Now, what was going to happen? First of all, Aaron and his sons had to receive a washing. This washing was public. It was in front of everyone. And so the priests had to humble themselves before the people and saying, I'm submitting to the washing of God. Amen. See, from then on, when they came in after they were consecrated, from then on, they only washed their hands and feet. Okay, then he told them to take all the congregation, go to the door of the tabernacle, and that's where the washing occurred. Moses obeyed, the people followed, and this is what the Lord has commanded to be done. You say, now why do this? Well, because God said it. If God said it, it has to be done. In Ephesians, we are washed by the work of God's word. Never forget the power of God's word. Titus 3:5, we are washed by the washing of regeneration. To be regenerated is to be born again. Remember, the rich young ruler came. He says, what can I do to receive eternal life? Well, you got to come give everything you got. That was an offering that had to be made for every part of that person, or that is your burnt offering. When you come to God and you bring him a part, you keep a part, and you really have to come to him. You're thinking about it. But you come to God when you tell him, Lord, take my inside, my outside, take my entrails out, take my thoughts, take my mind, take my body,
Amen.
what I say, what I do when I'm alone. Take that as an offering and burn it up so that I can be used by you. In Revelation 1:5, he says, by Christ is another way that we are washed. And we are also washed in Revelation 2:5 by our cleansing. That is a scripture that lets you know. I know some people teach that once in grace, always in grace. But if you read in Revelation 2:5, you know that your candlestick can be removed. It is possible for you. He talks about backsliding. We can backslide. And we're not fit if we turn around and go back. But you know what? We can come on back to God and allow him to cleanse us, to work on us, and to deliver us from all of our ills. And my God is so willing. He is a God who desires to touch us and to lead us. Now, I'm going to say this about 3 things happened in the consecration of the priests. They had to be dressed properly. Then they had to be anointed. And you can read about that when you go home. And there had to be a sacrifice for their sin. You see, the priest was a sinner just like everybody else.
Right.
He was only in a different position. Once we get in that position, we still have to go to God and say, God, forgive me. I still have to go to my sister and say, forgive me for what I have done. We can't act as though we have done nothing. But at any rate, then they had to have a special meal, which was boiled at the door of the tabernacle, and they ate it, and that represented we have to have not stale, but fresh relationship with Christ every single day. Every single day. Now, the dress, I will mention, because some of you weren't with us when we did this. What was the dress? There was a coat or tunic. There was a girdle, which is a sash that went around. They had a robe under that. And then there was an ephod on top. And the ephod also had the curious girdle or another robe below that. There was a breastplate on top, and it had the Urim and the Thummim. Now, what did they do with the Urim and the Thummim? It was like casting lots, heads or tails. They would throw those things up and bring them down, and God would be the one who told them what decision to make by how the Urim and the Thummim fell. So they were to put that in their clothing. They had a mitre or headdress around their head with a gold plate on it. And listen to me. The plate said, holiness unto the Lord. This is how we're acceptable. Well, yeah, but I do this and I do that. Now, listen, our holiness is through Jesus.
Amen.
And guess what? Every day as we enter into fresh experience with him, when we wake up every morning and say, thank you, Jesus, for this day.
Yes.
He begins to cleanse us for another new day.
Amen.
And the thing about him is that when he washes our sins, we don't have to come back next year to get rid of that sin, because some of them only came once a year, and it was on a rotating basis because there were 3,000 of them. So they couldn't all come on the same day. So once a year they came. Now, we don't have to keep coming back to Pastor Bill, bringing him an animal and say, would you please let me put my hand on his head? Because someone died for us one time. And that blood is still flowing. That blood still has the power to cleanse us from all of our sins. So they went through, let me just reiterate again. Holiness unto the Lord. We have to come to God in holiness. God said, be ye holy. Why? Because I'm holy. The Lord would never get away from that. Okay. Now, the oil, everything in the tabernacle was anointed. The altar was anointed. The laver, which is where they washed their hands, was anointed. You go into the next room and you have the lampstand. It was anointed. Then you had the table of the showbread. It was anointed. Then you had the altar of incense. It was anointed. Then Aaron is the only one who could go into the mercy seat. All right, so everything, all the utensils, everything, and Aaron and his head and Aaron's sons had to be anointed. All right, then they dressed Aaron's sons as well. They put blood on the horns of the altar. Those altars had a horn on each corner, and they put the blood on each corner. The blood represents cleansing, and the fat represents the best, giving the best that we have to our Lord. All right, now the sacrifice of the sin offering I have explained, but they did it a little differently for the priests. They anointed, there were 2 rams. The first one was a burnt offering, but the second one, the blood from it, they placed on the tip of Aaron's right ear, the tip of his right thumb, and the big toe of his right foot. Now let me see if young people got that. When they anointed Aaron, what is the first thing anointed?
The tip of his right ear.
Tip of his right ear. Then the tip of his right thumb. And then his big toe. That's everything he hears. So you have to watch what you listen to.
Amen.
It's everything you do, because you can't do anything without your thumb. Take 2 thumbs away, you can't pick anything up. That's what makes, isn't that what separates us from the lower animals? Okay, then the big toe represents everywhere you go. We have to say, is this pleasing to our Lord? All right, then you boil the flesh at the door. Now I want to say this, let's slow down right here, of the tabernacle and eat there. This was a relationship, a fellowship dinner. Peace with God. Now, the thing about eating is that it is, as I said earlier, personal. No one can eat for you. Just because he goes to the table and eats fish, that doesn't mean that his stomach is full. Am I right?
Amen.
All right, so eating is personal.
Amen.
You have to do it for yourself. The second thing, eating, when you come into this peace offering with God, it is inward. It doesn't do you any good to put it on your arm, to put it on your foot, or just sit in the kitchen and look at it. Amen. Eating has to be internalized.
Amen.
We can't act like we don't hear the things that God is saying. We have to internalize them and let them work in our lives.
Amen.
The third thing, eating is active. There's one thing that you cannot do, and that is eat and sleep. Now you can eat, let medicine work. You can eat and get rest. You can eat and have the TV on. You can keep waking up here in a little bit. But one thing you cannot do is eat and sleep. So eating is something, and what he's saying here is that you must actively pursue God. You can't just act like everything will be all right. Well, I went down to the altar 3 years ago. Okay, you can't assume that that anointing is still upon you. Now, I'm going to go to, I can't believe I've gotten this far. I'm going to take 2 more minutes. Leviticus chapter 9 is, well, you can see at the top of the page, we eat out of a sense of need. We need food. Okay? You have to come to a point where you feel that you need Jesus. Some people are, and they have so much stuff, they don't think they need Jesus. But we do need Him. Eating produces a sense of satisfaction. Once we internalize Christ, we can find satisfaction in Him. God wants fresh relationship. He doesn't want a stale relationship with Him. So we can only eat leftovers for a specific period of time. Every once in a while we want some fresh food. And that's what God wants with us. Now, they had to stay in the tabernacle, the priests, for 7 days. 7 is a number that means what? Completion. God called Aaron then to minister. The sin and the burnt offerings were offered for Aaron, and he started ministering. He began to minister to the people. He offered a sacrifice for his own sin because he's a man. And then he offered sacrifices on behalf of the people. Aaron lifted up his hands toward the people, blessed them, and offered sacrifices. And when Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of meeting and came out and blessed the people, guess what happened? The glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Sister Nancy, you remember the day that we were cleaning up? And I finally said, I'm going to tell them there's a fire in here. Sister Nancy said, that's not a fire. And we just stood there, brother and sister Nancy, were you? We just stood in the presence of the Lord. And his visible, you could see, the presence of the Lord came in like a fog and sat on us. Amen. That's why every time I get disturbed about this church, I say, God said it. Yeah. And it's his work. And it shall be done. Amen. And it shall be filled. Yes. It shall, the house shall be filled. But when they obeyed, the glory of the Lord, just like it did us that day, it came down physically and sat upon them. Fire came out from the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat. That's the blood and the fat. When the people saw it, they didn't just say, oh, that's nice. They shouted and they fell down before God on their faces because they realized that we have a God in heaven who cares about us. Amen. No matter what we're going through, no matter what trial we're facing, our God is involved in our lives. He feels our hurts. He knows our pain. He knows what's going on in our families. He knows the financial stresses that we are under. He knows all about us. Amen. And yet his presence is with us, it's in us, and all around us. Now, they fell down on their faces and praised God. That's what it will make you do. You know what? Last night as I was preparing this page, I wept. Because I realized how the presence of God has been with this old woman all these years. Since I was 10 years old. I've only been in the hospital to have babies or stop by because of some mild thing going on with my life, but I've never laid my head overnight in the hospital. I give God praise. Yes. He's the one keeping me. Yes. He's the one sustaining me. And I give him glory. Amen. Now, the priests were there. The offering was there. The tabernacle was there. And the nation was there to be ministered to. But it was all complete until what happened? Till the fire came. Because only when the fire of God comes, when your sins be cleansed and burned up, distributed to the east and to the west, never to be remembered against you anymore. Community fellowship, we have priests in here. We have the blood of Christ has been offered. We have a peace offering that's already been made for us. We have a tabernacle. We have a place. Somebody say amen. Right. We have a place to worship. We have a community because there's a whole world looking for someone to minister to them. All right. But it is not complete unless what happened this morning happens in the house of God. We need the fire of the Holy Ghost in this place. Filling every pew, touching every heart, changing every mind, fixing our hearts so that we can serve God and Him only. Let Him be. All the glory goes to God. Hallelujah. We can totally surrender.
Oh, yes.
Totally concentrate.
Yes.
And just be at peace with God.
Oh, yes.
Well, I sailed on through there. Our sins have been forgiven.
Yes.
Our guilt is gone. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Will you take up your cross in the house of God?
Oh, yes.
of your